Good morning. Morning.
Morning.
Everybody's coming. Morning.
Professor, when is our midterm?
When is what?
Our midterm?
You don't have a midterm. It just keeps going and going. There's no midterm.
Okay, so we only have a final, right?
You do have a final. You have a
Okay.
cumulative final that you have to have a video camera for. I mentioned it the first week that I think I mentioned the first and the second week that
Your internet's cutting off.
I know my internet is not working today. My internet isn't working. I have Optimum coming tomorrow.
هو الكلب ديال الطوغات هذاك هو الكلب ديال الطوغات شتي هو واحد الانسان اللي الله يستر وعنده حاجات بحال مثلا صوت نامي على الصعيد باش كان داك السيس ديالو ديك الحاله هو مولاها ايوا هو مولاها وكاين سامي الهضره عليه حالفه والله ما عرفتش
Paula, we can hear you.
No one can control their emotions. What?
Let me see if I can read her.
All they do is what?
There, I can read her. All right, we'll wait one more minute and then we shall start. Okay, guys, so first and foremost, welcome to my kitchen instead of my bedroom. I have no internet, so I'm using my next door neighbor's internet right now. So if it gets spotty, it's the best I can do. Optimum's coming tomorrow, so hopefully they'll figure it out. It's not in my house, it's on the pole. So if we start doing the learning and stuff and you're having a hard time hearing me and I'm breaking up, chat it into the chat, and then that way I'll put up the chat so that I can know that this isn't working. I'm doing the best. I'm on my work computer in my kitchen. So first things, I don't understand why everybody's not doing all three parts of the discussion. So you do this awesome first part, and then you comment on two other people's posts, and then you forget to go back to comment on yours. So remember to do all three of the discussion board. That's super important. I can't access Middlesex on this computer for some reason, so I can't go over our syllabus for this week as I normally would, but just so you know, you do have, your study plan, you have your quiz, and then you have a discussion board on sensation and perception. So you do have all three parts due again the next time. So today we're going to learn about sensation and perception, and it's actually a really fun chapter. It kind of stinks that we're not in class because we'd be doing all kinds of fun stuff, but we will do as much fun as we can today. So your two words are sensation and perception today. So I get out my markers. And they're two very different things. So when you smell something burning, is it a sensation or a perception?
Sensation.
Exactly. So what might be the perception? You smell something burning. What might be the perception?
You may perceive it as, oh, my house is on fire.
Exactly. Your brain says, wait a second, the sensation of something burning, that's the smell, there's something burning, and then it transposes to your brain, and when your brain gets involved like that, it's the perception. Maybe something's on fire. So the definition of sensation is receptors in our sensory organs. Receptors in our sensory organs receive and detect stimuli. Perception is the way the brain organizes and interprets that stimuli. The way the brain organizes and interprets that stimuli. So you need both. You need sensation, but you also need to how your brain organizes it. So depending on how you organize things is how your perception works. When you've already had an experience and you go back to that experience, automatically your brain is able to pull up that experience. That's called top-down processing. Top-down processing. That's when you use past experience or knowledge to understand. So you get a new cell phone. You pretty much can use that new cell phone because you have that old information from your old cell phone. There might be a few new things that are happening or when the update happens, but in general, you can use that cell phone. That is top-down processing. Did you ever do one of those Where's Waldo books? When you've found Waldo, you put that book down, you haven't looked at it for 2 years. When you go back to that Where's Waldo book, you often are able to find Waldo so much quicker because you've seen him before there. That's your top-down processing. When you do a jigsaw puzzle, how do you normally do a jigsaw puzzle? How do you do a jigsaw puzzle?
The ends
You do
first.
the
and work
outside
your way around.
first.
Right. So when you do that, you are using what's called bottom-up processing. You create the outside, then maybe it's a picture of a cat with a flower. So then you might make the flower because it's all the red pieces, you know. You're using what's known as bottom-up processing, which is like doing a jigsaw puzzle, where the brain collects all the information and prepares it for interpretation. You're able to start to see the puzzle as you collect that information, right? You put the puzzle the outside, then you do the rows, then you find the pieces that are like the eyes and you put it together. That's all bottom up processing. Now, we're going to start with sensation. That's what we're going to start with. We're going to start with sensation and then move on to perception. So did you ever walk into one of your friends' houses and it either smells like their dog or it smells like, I don't know, they cook with, you know, I don't know, curry, let's just say, and you walk in and you say, oh my God, your house, it smells so strong of curry or your dog. And they're like, I don't smell anything. I don't get that. That's because all of us have what's known as sensory adaptation. We all adapt to the senses around us, whether it's sounds. You might live right next to the highway and somebody sleeps over your house and they're like, could not sleep at all last night. The sound of the cars all night long. And you're like, I don't even hear them. That's your sensory adaptation. So you become less sensitive to constant stimuli, which also goes with, it's not only hearing or smelling. I'm sure you know somebody, or maybe it's you, that eats hot sauce on everything. And so you go to like some restaurant and they're like spicy pasta. And you're like, that sounds good. And your friend orders it too. And they're like, oh my God, my mouth is on fire. And you're like, it's not even spicy. That's sensory adaptation. Your senses tend to adapt to something that's pretty constant. Did you ever watch the Friends episode where Chandler wants to stop smoking and somebody gives him a stop smoking tape, and in the tape it says, you are a strong, confident woman, you can stop smoking. So he listens to these audio tapes all night long, and then Chandler's walking around the apartment and he's got a towel around and he's wearing his hair up in a towel turban, and he's kind of sashaying, and Joey's like, what are you doing? And he was like, I don't know, I'm a strong, confident woman, I can stop smoking. That was a subliminal message. Now that was a little strong. That was a poetic license on the Friends episode, but it does show that you can have subliminal sensation. There is such a thing as subliminal sensation. So him listening to that video, that audio tape all night long to stop smoking, turned him into a strong, confident woman. It is a thing. So you can have subliminal sensation. You all have your thresholds for sensation as well. We could be sitting in the classroom and somebody could be tapping their pencil. Now, you might not care, but the person sitting behind you might be going bonkers because that's their threshold. It is annoying the you-know-what out of them. The dripping faucets, some people can deal with it, some people cannot. Smells. There's, I remember there when I was in my office, which I'm no longer in my office, I'm at home, but when we were in the office, there was a woman who wore beautiful, strong perfume. Now, I thought it smelled lovely, but somebody else was like, I'm getting a headache from her perfume. So you all have your threshold for sensation. So the way that the chapter is broken down is that it goes through each of the sensation organs. So it starts with vision, which of course is the, hello? Somebody?
Eyes.
Eyes.
Thank you. So when we talk about eyes, we always talk about vision. And we talk about 20/20 vision being perfect. Do you know what 20/20 vision means? Who knows what having 20/20 vision means? We know it's perfect, but what does that mean? What do those 20s represent? Anyone? Anyone? Take a guess. What does 20/20 vision mean? Nobody?
I mean, I know like eyes are usually like the worse your vision is, the difference it is, and like 20/20 is like that means it's 20 on both eyes. I just don't like know what the 20 is.
No, that's not true.
Is that you see good?
You can have 20/20 and you can have 20/40. So each eye is separate. So it's not 20/20. So it's not 20/20. 20/20 vision means something that is 20 feet away appears 20 feet away. So they test each eye separately, right? So when they test each eye, they're looking to see something that is 20 feet away appears 20 feet away. You can be nearsighted, which means you can't see far, or you could be farsighted, which means you can't see near. So 20/20 is seeing something that is 20 feet appears 20 feet away. Does anybody know what the number is for being legally blind? 20 what?
200.
Exactly, Evelyn. 20/200 is being legally blind, which means that in one or both eyes, something that is 20 feet away appears
It looks
200
200.
away. Correct.
Yeah.
200 feet away. So can people that have 20/200 not function in society? Are they considered blind? Is there, or
No,
no? What do we do?
we use a system
Corrective devices.
and yeah, and learn, they call blind skills.
Yeah, there is such a thing. That's right, Evelyn. You have a vision impairment, blind skills, and we're going to talk a little bit about that because that is really interesting. But let's go back to the eye. When we talk about the eye, we are talking about vision and light and color. Now, I'm not going to draw a really bad eye for you. Sometimes in the classroom, I draw a terrible eye on the board, but you're going to see it all in your study plan. So I just want you to understand that light equals sight. So you need to have light to be able to see, though we do use sometimes color to see. They're going to talk about the different parts of the eye. I'm not going to go into all the parts of the eye with you. What I'm going to tell you is that they're in each of these senses. We're going to talk about two main things. We're going to talk about the nerve that connects to the brain, and we're going to talk about the receptor cells in each of the sensory organs. So the nerve that connects to the brain, so you have an eye, and the eye is receiving all kinds of information, and then it has a nerve that connects to the brain to send the information to what part of the brain? Who remembers what lobe?
Occipital.
Yep, the occipital lobe. So the optic nerve is going back to the occipital lobe. I just told you what the nerve was. The optic nerve. The optic nerve is the nerve that connects to the occipital lobe. If there is an injury to the optic nerve, you are not going to be able to see, because that is what sends the information to the brain. So it is an integral part of vision. So your optic nerve. You have in every one of your sensory organs receptor cells. Excuse me? Oh, Evelyn, were you saying something?
No.
Okay. So in your eyes, you have what's known are rods and cones. I'll write that down for you.
You learn about which one is more bright, like the first.
Yep. So you use brightness, exactly. So people who are color weak can drive. So hold on, I want to do a quick little, I'm going to share my screen. And then I want to show you guys a quick video. Let me just see which one we're watching. Using color to keep track of objects. Okay, let's watch a little video. It's coming. Poor internet. Okay. So did those last two get you? Because I was like looking at it going, oh my God, I'm colorblind. I had no idea. It totally got me. So the other thing that I want to talk about, and Evelyn did mention about learning skills. There is such a thing as blind sight. And that is somebody who literally can't see, but has the ability to see using echolocation. Echolocation. Evelyn, you seem to know a little bit about this. Do you know what echolocation is?
This is like the orientation when you use the cane,
So
the stick.
echolocation is where your hearing becomes so amazing because the lack of vision that you can, oh, look at Taylor with her kitty cat. Because of that, you're able to detect where things are based on how sound bounces off of it. So a student could walk into the classroom and be heading straight for the podium, but they're making a noise. They're making like a noise with their mouth. And as they're getting closer to the podium, they can start to hear the bouncing of the sound, and they'll actually turn and walk away from the podium so they don't walk into it. So people can do that with the cane, like you were saying, Evelyn. If they're tapping with the cane, they can hear. But most of the time, people use the cane to make sure that nothing's in their way. But if they're using the cane and they hear something a little different, that might mean that a step might be going down or something just by the sound of the tap. So echolocation is another term for blind sight. All right, let's move on to your hearing. When you go to try out for a band or a show, what do you go on? And what?
An audition.
Yeah. The term hearing, another word for the term hearing is audition. The term audition means to hear. That's why it's called an audition, because they're hearing you when you go for an audition. So another term for hearing is audition. Now, when we talk about audition or hearing, we are talking about sound waves, right? And we're talking about amplitude. What is amplitude? What's amplitude?
Like volume, like how
Yep,
how loud something is.
Exactly. And we're talking about pitch. What is pitch?
The frequency of the sound.
Right. But in layman's terms, you're absolutely right, Nicholas. But in layman's terms, we're talking about how high or low something sounds. You know, yes, it's all about the wave frequency, but we're talking about how high or low. So your ear is made up of this piece of cartilage on the outside called the pinna that really doesn't have a lot to do with hearing. It's just cartilage on the side of your head. So outside of your ear, we talk about the movement of air. Inside your ear, we talk about the movement of fluid. So air comes in through the pinna, and that's the outer part of your ear. And then when you go to the inside of your ear, we're talking about fluid. So your eardrum has another name. It's a tympanic membrane. You know that timpani drum? Boom, 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 boom. That's a tympanic membrane. Your eardrum's a tympanic membrane. The three tiniest, here's a fun fact, the three tiniest bones of your body are in your ear. Amaze your friends. Three tiniest bones are inside your ear. And then you have a nerve that goes to the part of your brain that allows perception. And that nerve is called the auditory nerve. Your auditory nerve is the thing that connects all of the sensation that's happening to go to your brain. Your receptor cells are these tiny hair cells that move the fluid. Those are the receptor cells. If you have never abused your hearing, at the age of 65, you have less than 40% of your hearing in general. For the average person, you abuse it, you lose it. That's the moral of the story with hearing. Now, we are in a society of terrible usage because we're on headphones, we have things shoved in our ears, we're probably not listening to it at the correct amplitude. So we are losing our hearings. They have already studied that 1 in 5 teenagers already has hearing loss. Now, there are a couple different things about hearing loss. When you go to a really loud concert and you come outside and your ears are kind of ringing, that's your brain saying you're doing damage to your hearing. That's the warning system of your body to say, you know, you are doing damage to your hearing. So that is called a stimulation deafness, but it goes away. Something really, really loud that causes like a temporary damage and it comes back. You can have nerve deafness, which means the auditory nerve is not sending the message to the brain and you're going to be deaf with that. Or you can have what's known as conduction deafness, which is a poor transfer of sound from the outer ear to the inner ear. Can you can you cure conduction deafness? Nicholas, you're shaking your head. Yes. Taylor, tell me how you cure
Yes.
conduction. How? How do you cure conduction deafness? What do you see?
My guess is that. What happened?
I said, what do you see
I'm
people
guessing
wearing? Hearing aids.
hearing aids.
Right? Hearing aids. Hearing aids are to help transfer the information from outside the ear to go inside the ear. So it helps. If you have a problem with the cochlear, which is one part of the ear, they can do what's known as a cochlear implant, which is really putting a little sound processor literally on your head behind your ear. It's actually a sound processor that has a microphone that sends the information inside to your brain. So they do have ways to help with deafness. Not as much in vision as with hearing, interestingly enough. Let's move on to our next two senses, and they go together.
Professor,
Excuse me, Evelyn?
Professor, excuse me.
Yeah.
Yes, can you repeat the three different like damage? I can, please?
Yep. You have conduction deafness, which is the poor transfer of sound from the outer to the inner. You have nerve deafness, which is when there's damage to the auditory nerve. And you have taste, God, I'm writing taste, sorry. Stimulation deafness, which is when you do that temporary damage, when it's loud and you come out of a concert or around a jet airplane and you have a temporary or stimulation deafness. It goes away, but it's telling you that you have done damage. Okay, so we're moving on.
Okay.
Smell and
Thank you.
taste. Sure. Smell and taste, which go together. Smell is known as olfaction and taste is known as gustation. They work together. They are chemical senses. So let's do smell first, even though they go together. You know, when you have a stuffy nose that you have a problem tasting things the same way, right? So we know they work together. So let's talk about your nose and let's talk about smell. Smell, the receptors in your nose are called olfactory receptors. And so they receive airborne molecules in your nose and those sense it, that's your senses. And then the olfactory nerve sends the information to your brain. So there are airborne molecules all over the place, and your olfactory nerve fibers are what create smell. There are 1 trillion smells. So there's lots and lots and lots and lots of smells, which is why there's 90,000 perfumes and aftershaves and things that make you smell, because everything's a combination of chemical senses. So your smell does regenerate. So if you smell something really strong, and let's say some of those nerve fibers don't really love it and they kind of die, they do regenerate, but regeneration slows with age. So things don't smell as strongly as you get older. Let's talk about gustation. Gustation, which is taste. What do you think your receptor cells for taste are? What do you think your receptor cells as taste are?
Are they your taste buds?
Yep, they're your taste buds. Your taste buds are those little bumps on your tongue, but you actually have taste buds all over your mouth. They're on the roof of your mouth. They're on the linings of your cheeks. You have receptor cells all over your mouth. Now, I don't know how many of you guys had a teacher in high school that drew a tongue on the board and said, well, this is salty and this is sweet. You know, I don't know if you had that where and this is bitter. You know, I don't know if you had that in high school. That was the old school way of thinking that your taste buds and your taste worked. That is not the way taste works. Taste is, your taste buds are everywhere in your mouth and they work in conjunction. There is no one part of your tongue or your taste buds that are only about sweet or salty, anything like that. Now, you do have 5 types of taste buds, and they are least sensitive to most sensitive. So your taste buds go in least sensitive to most sensitive: sweet, salty, sour, bitter, umami. There you go. What's umami? Umami is a type of savory flavor. That's what umami is. And it's like the newest taste bud. It's like the new kid on the block. So sweet, salty, sour, bitter, and umami. Umami being the most sensitive, sweet being the least sensitive. So did you ever like bite into something really hot and you burn like the roof of your mouth? You have just killed your taste buds. But the good news is they regenerate. Your taste buds regenerate every like 8 to 12 days. So the older that you are, the less regeneration. Certain things like smoking actually kill your taste buds. They do. And you don't regenerate. So just something to keep in mind, that when people who quit smoking, they often say things like, oh my God, this tastes so good. Because it does, because their taste buds are regenerating and food does taste differently. So let's talk about our last sense, which is touch. Touch is the skin is your body's biggest organ. Your epidermis, your skin, is your body's biggest organ. So when we talk about touch, it's actually quite interesting because there are different types of touch, or I should say there's different types of sensation when we talk about touch. You have light touch, you have pressure, you have hot, you have cold, and you have pain. So those are all different sensations to do with touch. You have light touch, you have pressure, hot, cold, and pain. So we're going to talk a little bit with the with that sensation. You're playing soccer, you twist your ankle, you come off the field. What's the first thing that your coach might do for your ankle?
Put ice on it?
Exactly, put ice on it. Now, when you have that ice on your ankle, do you feel the pain of the ankle or do you feel the ice on your ankle?
The ice.
Yeah, you feel the ice. So what happens is that your mind, your sensation actually gates off. It's almost like closing a gate, because the pain is back here of the injury, but the ice is what is the sensation that is sending to your brain. So you don't really feel the pain anymore, you feel the ice. So you have this way to, like, it's called sensory gating, literally like a gate to a house, or a train gate coming down. You gate off certain sensation and you have other sensation. Have you guys ever had a toothache and your tooth is kind of, it's kind of pulsing, like pain. You have a bit of pain here. I got some pain in my tooth. So what that is that's the warning system of your body that's saying to your brain, there's something going wrong in your tooth. And if you don't attend to it, then it's going to be horrible, consistent pain. So you get those first warning signals. You have a warning system that tells you that you're going to have pain. And if you don't attend to it, it's going to get worse. So you have the warning system and then the actual, so it's like a reminder system. So when you go to touch something that's hot, let's say you're a little kid and you go to touch the stove or the oven, and the oven is hot. You touch it, you get that sensation that it's hot, and you pull your hand away immediately. Because if you didn't, what would happen? If you didn't pull your hand away, what would happen?
You would get a really bad burn.
You would get a really bad burn that would cause a lot of damage. So your brain is smart enough that that warning of touching makes you pull your finger away so that you don't injure yourself more. So it's really important to understand how the brain is working with this sensation. We know that there's a whole lot of mind over matter. If there's a woman who has a child pinned under a car, you've heard about them having this like insane strength to lift the car up to get their child out. And they're like, I don't know, I'm not a strong person, but at the moment I had this incredible strength to save my child. So the mind is an amazing thing when we talk about how it controls things, including sensation. So if you go to the dentist and the dentist says to you, if you feel anything, raise your hand and I'll stop immediately. Knowing that you have control over that pain will make you feel less pain. Having that control in your mind works. One of the most difficult and dangerous illnesses that a child can have is pain insensitivity. So that is a child who does not have the sensory organs in epidermis to feel the pain, and so they end up injuring themselves. They're walking on a broken ankle. They're poking themselves in the eye. Pain insensitivity. You don't hear commercials like Cars for Kids and stuff like that for pain insensitivity. We hear about cancer. We hear about things like that. Nobody talks about pain insensitivity, but that is one of the most dangerous things for children because they don't know when they've hurt themselves. So that's a really interesting, sensory.
This is,
Yes, Evelyn.
this is when they call, this is when they call like pain management, like, or pain resistance, something like that, or no?
No, this is called pain insensitivity. Pain management is when you are able, as a matter of fact, I'll show you a video about pain management. Hold on, I'll show you a quick one about pain management. Let me share screen again. All right, let's go back. I'll show you a video about pain management. Let me just see which one that is. Soldier. Sorry about the audio. I told you I have internet problems. Sorry. But you
Oh, I can hear nothing.
but you got the gist of it, that here you watched a video of what was going on was a guy who is in unbelievable pain, and they put virtual reality on him, and they were able to manipulate him and move his body and do stuff without pain because his mind was preoccupied. So that's when we talk about the brain being amazing. This is what I'm talking about. You guys know that, you've heard it before, that people who have lost limbs in battle actually have phantom pain. And it's common. It's like 50 to 80% of people that can say, my foot hurts, but they don't have a foot anymore. So it's the brain. You're feeling pain in the brain. That's the moral of the story, is that you feel these sensations in the brain, not just in your body. That's like the bottom line, the moral of the story. So let's move on to perception now, because we've done all of our senses and we need to talk about perception. And perception is the way the brain organizes that sensory information. Now, an illusion, and I wish I had some fun things to show you, because in class I could hand out fun things and all, but an illusion is when your sensory information, the perception is wrong. Your brain sends sensory information, but it doesn't detect it correctly. So let me see if I can find you an illusion. Hold on. All right, so here's an illusion. Here's an illusion. Who is the tallest? Now they're all the exact same height, but because of the way that they are on here, one appears to be taller. Or let me find you another one. Because your brain sends the information, the sensory organs, so in this case, your eyes send information, but your brain doesn't see it the same. All right, let's see. Let's see if you can see this one. This is an illusion too. Is the left center circle bigger? They're exactly the same, but based on the way that it looks, the left circle looks bigger. Now, when we talk about perception, now this is a bad copy, but I think you'll be able to get, this is what's known as an impossible figure. The question is, how many legs does the elephant have? Now that's an impossible figure because there's no real legs on that sucker. That's called an impossible figure. So your brain is sending, your sensory organ, vision, is sending it to the brain, and the brain is trying to categorize it and tell you what the deal is. Now, again, these are illusions. Your chapter's probably going to go all into Gestalt. I'm not going to go into that because it's long and boring, but I want you to talk, we're going to talk about different types of perception. How do you not fall off a curb, or how do you go down the stairs? It's a type of perception. What kind of perception do you have that you don't fall down the stairs, but you actually are able to walk downstairs? What kind
Deep perception?
Depth perception. You all have depth perception, which is the ability to judge three-dimensional space. Okay? You can judge distance. You can judge that there's a drop on a curb. You all have depth perception, that you have the ability to see 3D space. Now you use both of your eyes for that. Use both your eyes for depth perception, but your vision is 1.5 inches apart. This eye sees 1.5 inches difference than this. And the way you can do this, everybody holds up your finger, close one eye, now close the other eye. It looks like it moves, right? It moves like an inch. When you do that, that's the disparity between your vision. So your brain has to converge that disparity, that retinal disparity. So vision is a convergence of what each eye sees. So, we don't just believe what we see. Sometimes we see what we believe. I'll say that again. We don't just believe what we see. Sometimes we see what we believe. So you're on campus and you're walking out of Main Hall, and down by Raritan Hall is somebody that sort of looks like your friend Joe, but you really can't see that far away. But you know that Joe is tall and thin, and the person is holding a messenger bag, and you know your friend Joe has a messenger bag, and this person has brown hair, and Joe has brown hair. Now you can't see Joe, but you create this perception that it's Joe. So you are believing what you think you see, and that's just a perception. Now this person can come start walking towards you, and all of a sudden you're like, well, that's not Joe. But for a little while there, you had the perception that that was Joe. Now, depending on depending on what your motivation is, you're going to have a different perception. If I brought in a hamburger to class, somebody in the room might be like, that hamburger looks good. And that's because they didn't eat breakfast and they're totally hungry, and the perception changed because they're so hungry. There might be somebody who's vegan and they might be like, that's disgusting. And there might be somebody who likes their burgers super well done and this one isn't well done. So they're like, I can't really eat that. I don't like it. You know, depending on your motivation is going to be your perception. You also have what's known as a perceptual set, which is that you perceive something based on past experience. Let's say every one of your boyfriends had brown hair and brown eyes and they cheated on you. You might have this perception that you are not ever dating somebody with brown hair and brown eyes again because they're all cheaters. That's your perception based on how they look. So everybody has their own perceptual sets based on past experience. Now, my favorite part of this discussion, and it's not even in your chapter, but we're going to have it anyway, is a type of perception that cannot be defined by science, but it exists. And it's called extrasensory perception, ESP. Has anybody ever heard of ESP before?
Yeah.
So, ESP, extrasensory perception, is, when we study it, it's called parapsychology. That's what it's called, parapsychology, when you study ESP. And it is known, it is a psi phenomena. Oh, you know what, before we go to that, I just want to do one really quick thing. I want to go back to one perception. I'm going to type something into the chat, okay? And I want you to count. Wait, first let me type it and then. Okay, so I just typed something into the chat and I want you guys to tell me how many F's there are. Say it out loud. How many F's are there?
4. 4.
Who else? Anybody else?
5.
How many? Anybody else?
4.
Ah.
4.
I counted 5.
Yeah,
There's
5.
actually 6. There's actually 6 F's, but the norm is for you to find 3 because the perceptual habit of not seeing specific letters in of. We have this tendency to not see the F's in of because it's a habit. It's one word. So that's a perceptual habit. So sorry about that. I just didn't want to forget to do something with you. Okay, so when something defies scientific law, it exists, but we can't explain it. It is known as a psi phenomena. A psi phenomena. A psi phenomena is when it defies scientific law. It happens, but it defies scientific law. So there are 3 different types of extrasensory perception. You have precognition, which means you can predict the future. You have telepathy, which means you read other people's minds. And you have clairvoyance, where you can see through physical barriers. Now, there was a television show called Medium. They used to be on TV. Rosanna Arquette, it was based on the true story of a woman who was a medium. That is clairvoyance. That is somebody who could see through physical barriers. So there was always like a child locked in a boathouse by a lake, and she would find the child. Now, it was a television show, but it was based on a true person. So it does exist. Do you think that such a thing as precognition really exists? Being able to predict the future?
Not exactly.
Well,
I think yes.
we know it exists because it is a type of extrasensory perception. It's just not as common as everybody thinks. For instance, we wouldn't have a lottery system if somebody kept winning the lottery because they knew the numbers for tomorrow, right? But we still have a lottery system, so you're not able to do that, right? And there's a lot of deception in predicting the future. So if you go to a fortune teller and they say to you, oh, I foresee you meeting the man or woman of your dreams. They have blonde hair and blue eyes. This is happening soon for you. It's going to happen in the next 6 months. And you're like, oh, yay. And then every time you go to a party or you go down the shore to DJs or wherever you are, you're now searching that room for the guy that the fortune teller told you you're going to meet. So you're looking for that girl or guy, and you're like, and you only concentrate. So somebody walks up to you with brown hair and brown eyes, and they're like, hey, want to dance? And you're like, nope, sorry, looking for my eye on the prize. I'm looking for that blonde hair, blue-eyed person. So you actually make it happen. So that's not actually precognition because you made it happen. The one that I want to talk about the most is telepathy, reading other people's minds. Now, granted, there's a ton of deception in this. There was a guy named John Edwards. He's still around, I think, but he was the big one. And now there's Tyler, who can, there's a younger guy, Tyler, who speaks to people who have died and things like that. But John Edwards used to, connect you with somebody who had passed on. And one of the Saturday Night Live skits with Will Ferrell was that he was playing John Edwards, and he was in a room, and he'd say, I'm getting somebody's coming to me. The name starts with A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And somebody would go, oh my God, it's my husband, Doug. I swear, oh my God, Doug is coming through. And he'd say, come here, just come up here. It's Doug. It's definitely Doug who's coming through. And he'd say, Doug is with your pet. You had a pet at some point with Doug. It was a dog, a cat, a bird, a fish. Oh my God, our dog Sniffles. Oh my God, Doug is with Sniffles. I can't believe it. And if you make these things completely broad, you could, through deception, come through. So there's a lot of people that are skeptics, but I heard a story that blew my mind when I was, a couple of years ago, I had a friend who completely believed in John Edwards. And we are talking like 15 years ago, before the internet, before YouTube, we're talking years ago before anybody put anything online, okay? And so my friend Katie went to Nassau Coliseum to see John Edwards, and she could only afford a nosebleed seat ticket. She was way, way up. And John Edwards said, I am getting, somebody's talking to somebody in Nassau Coliseum with the initials KS. So I guess that like maybe 5 people with the initials KS, maybe more, maybe 10 people stood up. And John Edwards kept saying things and people started sitting down. And finally he said, and I don't know what it is, but whatever he said, Katie was the last one standing. And as I said, she had the $20 seat up in the nosebleed. And so he said to Katie, I'm receiving your father. And she was crying hysterically, okay? And she said that John Edwards said to her, when your son is in the corner laughing, that's me entertaining him. Now, Katie had a 5-year-old son with severe autism. He nonverbal, he had a ton of severe behaviors. And one of the things that Max did was he used to stand in the corner and laugh. And so here John Edwards is saying that her dad makes her son laugh. Now you can try and shoot holes in this, but there is no way that John Edwards knew. It's not like she put it on the internet. She didn't do anything. She didn't tape him. She didn't do anything. How would John Edwards know that her 5-year-old autistic son stands in the corner and laughs? You can't poke a hole in it. It's a psi phenomena. It's extrasensory perception, it's telepathy, and it cannot be explained. Wild, right? Isn't that wild? So does anybody else have any extrasensory perception, anything that they can share with us?
My mom went to one of those things one time, and like she didn't get picked, but she was there at the thing, and like the guy was asking questions, and he eventually brought up like that one of the, like he was talking to the husband originally. He was like, you know, I hear that you still have like the slippers of this dead person, and he was kind of confused. Was like, what? No, I don't. And then his wife stood up and went, I do. Yeah, I do. I'm hiding them. And the husband had no knowledge that she was hiding them. Like, so she still had the dead person's slippers. He's like, wait, you do? And like, everyone was like freaked out.
Right. How would he know something like that? There's no way. You would never post that on Insta or put it on YouTube that you have dead people's slippers in your house, right? It's a gift. It exists. You cannot deny it. It's crazy.
I have a story.
Go ahead, Taylor.
Okay, so back in June, my ex-boyfriend passed away.
I'm sorry.
He got hit by a train in Trenton.
Oh,
And
worst way to die. Oh,
his
it's the worst.
yeah, it was nuts. It was nuts. But his nephew, they're all like really close in age. They grew up like brothers and sisters or whatever. After he passed away, his nephew had brought somebody over the house, like some girl that he had met or whatever, blah blah blah. So they were upstairs, and she was like, does somebody you know, like is somebody who you were close with like just passed away recently? And he was like, yeah, like my uncle. Why? And she was like, can I see a picture of him? And he's like, a picture for what? And she was like, when I walked in the house, I don't know if it's like a perception thing or more like a ghosty type thing, but she was like, when I walked in the house, like his grandmother always sits in the same chair in the living room. She was like, when I walked in, there was like a guy standing next to your grandmother with like his arm around her or whatever. So his nephew's thinking like, man, this chick's crazy. So brings up like a random picture of like just anybody and was like, oh, this is him. And she was like, no, that's not him. That's not who I saw. So he brings like another random picture and was like, oh, this is my uncle. And she was like, no, it wasn't him. She was like, I don't know. It must have been somebody else. And then leaving the house, there's a picture of him in the hallway. And she goes, who is this? And he was like, oh, that's my uncle. She's like, that's who I saw. That's who he was. Like, that's him. That's who I saw standing next to your grandmother. So it was like really weird because like she would have had no idea who he was. She never met him, you know, just had met him, don't know his family. So it was like a weird.
It exists. It exists. I am the biggest skeptic. I'm the biggest skeptic. You're not going to find anybody more of a skeptic than me. And it exists. It's crazy. That's a crazy story. Crazy. Anybody else?
Yeah, and she actually like told him.
Go ahead, Taylor.
Oh, she actually like told him the whole story afterwards. Like he was like, so what happened to him? And she like laid out the whole story. And there would have been no way that she knew what happened. She was like, he was in a house with two girls. They got into an argument. He left. He ran into blah, blah, blah. And then, yeah, like she knew the whole story. It was really weird.
Psi phenomena.
Yeah, really weird.
Anybody else have any stories?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead, share. Go ahead, Alex.
Someone that I'm really close with is actually someone I'm actually really close with is she's like a medium, and like she knows stuff that there's no way that she can know if she just looked. She knows things about strangers. It's crazy. Like she sees she like sees people. She sees dead people. So like she'll know if someone's around.
Can you imagine like literally having that? Like, oh my God, right?
Yeah, and she like knows things. It's like she'll know more about a stranger than she will about someone in her own family, because she says that like it's harder. She doesn't get a lot of like signals from about people that she knows closely. She knows more about strangers than she does like her own family.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. There's so many stories. Like she does like those readings like for groups and everything, and it's crazy.
Crazy.
Professor, when, for example, like, I remember in 2018, my nephew passed away, but was April 28th, but the April 25th, I have like a dream, but I really like lived that, you know, like it was alive, you know, like something very real. And when I just wake up, I said, you know, like I told to my husband, you know, I feel like somebody gonna die from my family. Like I have the feeling, I was crying because I feel something like it take it away from me. I don't know if it's, you know, like is compared with what you're saying, but it was the April 25th and then April 28th, somebody killed him.
Really?
You know, like.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
I don't know if it's perception, but I sometimes feel like things like that and something bad happened.
You know, we often.
But I don't know. It was.
I mean, that could be precognition, and it could be precognition. That's crazy, though. That is crazy. All right. So
I have an example.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. Go ahead, Amanda.
So 2 days before, it wasn't 2 days. It was the night, not even the night, but so it wasn't the day before. It was the night before. I don't know how to explain it. So my accident was on a Thursday. I dreamed about it on Tuesday night. And I dreamed about me getting in a really bad car accident and like, you know, like really bad. And then Thursday morning, I had a literally total loss car accident.
Yikes. Precognition. Maybe you have a little precognition too. Who
Oh
knows?
yeah, no. I can't with that.
Well, only dream about good things then. Dream about winning the lottery.
But like it's like everything that I dream about.
Oh. I think we just got,
Brand new car like a couple weeks after, and I got a brand new car.
good, dream good things.
So it's weird. It's like whatever I have been, but sometimes I don't remember what my dream is, and then just something happens.
There is a word
Well-
for it. It's like, but it does relate to like deja vu, where it's like you'll like imagine something, and then like it's kind of you lived it, and then like the next day or the day after, you kind of
Yeah, like for example, like the other day I dreamed about me and my boyfriend going to the farm, and like we went, but he did it. He was one that planned the whole thing, so it was.
Did you say Natalia said, dream a car for me too?
That is when you see something. Oh, I remember that. Okay.
Yep. Well, we'll talk a little bit more about that, but we're getting to the end of our time. So I just want to, I think I'm frozen, but we'll just keep going. Week 7, sensation and perception. You guys have your study plan, you have a quiz, and you have 3-part discussion. Do not forget to do the 3rd part. Write your discussion board, write on 2 people's boards, and then come back and comment on a post on yours. If there is no post on yours, then write one anyway, so you can get the 3rd part, so you can get all of your points, okay? Everybody have a good week, and I will.
Professor, when
Yes. What?
I want to ask you something.
Yes.
When people comment on you, so that you have to comment and then answer, or it's okay just comment? Because I did, and I was like, I don't know if this is like I answered, and I don't know. Nobody comment on mine, so
If nobody comments on yours, just make sure that you write another comment so I can give you all the credit.
but you have to comment, and then you have to ask. I mean, to that comment. This is my question. Like,
What I do is if nobody comments on my post, I'll comment and just elaborate a little bit more on my original post.
Exactly.
Not necessarily answering a question, but just going a little further in depth.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. That's
Okay.
perfect answer, Taylor. Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Have a good
Bye.
week.
You
Have a
too.
good one.
Bye, Professor. Thank you.
Oops. Oh, no.